So good evening, everybody. Welcome to Aro Ling Cardiff. This evening, Ngakma Nor'dzin is teaching on the 8 manifestations of Guru Rinpoche.
Thank you. Guru Rinpoche, also known as Padmasambhava, is considered to be the second Buddha, or the Tantric Buddha within Himalayan Buddhism. And his coming was predicted by Shakyamuni Buddha, who said that a powerful being would come and give teachings, a being of power equal to his own. And Shakyamuni Buddha largely taught the sutras and the practices which lead to a realization of emptiness. And Guru Rinpoche, the Tantric Buddha, begins from the realization of emptiness, and his teachings are in terms of the arisal of myriad forms from the basis of emptiness and leading to the realization of non-duality. So this was an aspect, part of the power of the teachings of Guru Rinpoche. Guru Rinpoche manifested many different forms throughout his time in India, Tibet, and Bhutan. But there are 8 particular manifestations that have come to be known as the 8 manifestations of Guru Rinpoche. And so we'll take a look at each of these and their various aspects. So we can go to the...
Is it
It's a slideshow.
Oops, I'm on the wrong thing.
That's the one.
Hooray.
So these are in an order. I would hesitate to say they're in the order because there seem to be numerous possible orders of the 8 manifestations. But this is a very good place to start because Pema Gyalpo, the Lotus Prince manifestation, speaks of his birth. So Guru Rinpoche was born fully enlightened as an 8-year-old child, born from the heart of a lotus. Now, the lotus represents enlightenment in itself, in that it grows from the muddy bottom of a lake, comes to the top, and then opens completely pristine and untouched by whatever muck there might be. So this represents our opportunity for realization that the muck of our neuroses and the muck of our conditions is just the food for the growth of the lotus. And when the lotus eventually blooms, it's completely pristine, it's completely free of any taint, of any possible problems. In aspects of Pema Gyalpo's story, include the idea that enlightenment overturns conventional behavior. It has to do that. We're assuming that our conventional behavior is unenlightened. Our conventional behavior is following habit patterns and our pursuit of happiness or whatever it is that we're doing. So enlightenment is going to overturn all of that. And an aspect of Pema Gyalpo is that of realized misbehavior. There's a certain amount of mischievousness in the young Padmasambhava who's not adhering to the rules of conventionality. And so in order to be practitioners, we have to allow a certain amount of realized misbehavior into our lives, usually directed by our teachers, in terms of how we act, what we do, what we might realize. Pema Gyalpo murders duality. It said he murdered a woman of the court and her son using his katvanga thrown from a roof. But in more visionary terms, he murders duality by uniting form and emptiness. Form and emptiness are no longer divided. Duality no longer exists. It has been murdered. And the young child, this is one very close to our hearts. You let a young child into your ideal home, and there's going to be a certain amount of chaos. So the young child of enlightenment has this sense of openness and curiosity, and looks in all the cupboards and starts doing things with your precious possessions, and picking things up off the shelves that you'd rather be left alone and tidy. So we let the young child of enlightenment into the ideal home of duality, and they cause chaos. Now, chaos in this sense is really another word for non-duality. Chaos is when you can't tell what's happening, where you can't tell what's form and what's emptiness, and you can't tell what's desirable and what's not desirable. The open, inquisitive nature of the child is very desirable. It's something that we could even emulate. But where they start looking might be undesirable. So it's got a sense of both. So this is the childish chaos that Pema Gyalpo brings to us. And this was what caused him to be banished from the court. I should have said at the beginning that when he was born from the heart of a lotus flower, he was found by courtiers of King Indrabhuti and then accepted into the court. He sees being at court as something of a trap, because you have to adhere to certain guidelines. So his murdering of duality that gets him expelled from the court is actually part of his escape into being able to act as the open, enlightened being that he is. So we can move on to the next image. This is Guru Tokye Dorje Chang, the primordial Buddha.
Sorry, I'm just smiling at Nelly peering at the screen. It's a bit small.
My apologies. I'm not sure what we can do. We could push people over and make this larger. Guru Tokye Dorje Chang manifests in this form in the charnel ground called Chilly Grove, also called Cool Grove, but that sounds a little less threatening. Now, a charnel ground is a place of chaos. This continues to some extent the theme of chaos that we had with Pema Gyalpo, because in the charnel ground, this is the place where bodies are thrown as a way of getting them away from civilized society. But they're dead, but there's also a lot of liveliness there, because the bodies are being eaten, vultures are picking up what they can, or grabbing too many entrails and they're dropping from the sky. There's a lot of wild activity, even though it's a place of death. And manifesting in this form, in this place, Ögen Tokye Dorje Chang is displaying that situations are workable. However chaotic a situation is, the charnel ground is workable. And so when we find that our lives are chaotic, being present is what makes it workable. Not wanting to calm everything down. Again, there's an analogy there with a party for toddlers. there's a charnel ground for you. So you don't want to spoil it necessarily for the children. You want to keep it safe to some extent. So you're there and you're present, but you're not stopping it from happening. The chaos continues. In this form, Guru Sokya Dorje Chang is in union with Mandarava, who was his Sangyom in India. And the history of Guru Rinpoche and Mandarava is one of his impropriety in terms of the way the Indian culture looked at things in being with Mandarava, and also being found in a nunnery. And the king condemned him to death. The king of Zahor condemned him to death by being placed on top of a funeral pyre, which was then set on fire. And he and Mandarava were on top of this pyre, and it burned for days. And when it had burnt itself out, instead of the funeral pyre, there was a lake, and this is the lake of Tsopema. So an aspect of Ögen Sokya Dorje Chang was the idea that you can teach through letting things play out. Rather than oppose or defend, things can play out, and they provide the teaching in and of themselves. So of course, on seeing this miraculous occurrence, the king of Zohor realized that he was much mistaken about the behavior of Guru Rinpoche, and gave him his crown, which we have represented in the Dorje Zahoma hat that we wear. So Ögen Sokya Dorje Chang, which means the lake-born Vajra from Uddiyana. Uddiyana means going by flying, and it's an indication that not only is instantaneous realization possible, but at some point it's the only thing that is possible, that we can work towards realization through our practice, through our study, but at some point a leap is required that's got nothing to do with linearity or logic. And we have to leap naked into that sense of expansiveness. We have to leap naked into openness and presence. And this is an aspect of the teaching of Sokya Dorje Chang. Nyima Özer, very much like this image. There's something quite undermining about it. Nyima Özer, the rays of the sun, is an image of the archetypal yogi. He has his Katvanga, which is a symbol of his union with his consort. He's like an Indian Siddha in many ways, that he wears charnel ground clothes. He wears bones and animal skins. So there's no particular need to be conventional in any way. He has a 5-skull crown, and this is the symbol of having transformed all neuroses into the wisdom of the 5 Buddha families. He also exists in this twilight appearance, and twilight is between the day and the night, in the way that we can play with emptiness and form. Is twilight daylight? Is twilight the night? And this is neither one thing nor the other, in the sense that non-duality is neither emptiness nor form. It has this sense of being undivided, both of them. So his twilight appearance includes these aspects. He's not shaven, but on the other hand, he hasn't grown a beard either. Rinpoche calls this the designer stubble of non-duality. And his body is glowing, so he's very alive and vital, but it's this dreadful yellow color, and it's the color of death. So he's alive, he's dead, he's not shaven, he's not bearded, he's playing backwards and forwards with emptiness and form in his very being. There's a story that he was at a tavern of all places, and enjoying the time there with people, and drinking a lot of chang. And the owner of the tavern said, "It's getting a bit late now. We want to clear up. You should go." And in the story, he said, "Well, okay, we'll go when the sun sets." And then he stabbed his purba into the table and stopped the sun from moving in the sky. It just stayed there so that he could carry on drinking. Another view of this story is that you can see that there's, well, you might not be able to see that from his finger, there is light connecting him. You can't see it in this image, connecting him with the sun, showing that with his finger, he's stopping the sun from moving. And this is his aspect in terms of stopping all dualistic strategies. So his teaching is that dualistic strategies don't work. And so we stop them dead in their tracks in order to realize non-duality. There's a theme here. So this is the story of Ngakma Nor'dzin.
He feels a little bit Drukpa Kunli-ish.
There's something sort of Vajrayana mischievousness about this, especially the idea that he's gone down to the pub to do this. So yes, there is that idea. Yes. Yes. This is Shakya Senge. So this is the lion of the Shakyas manifestation of Guru Rinpoche. Now, the Shakya clan was the clan to which Shakyamuni Buddha came from, which is why he has his name, Shakyamuni. And so this is Guru Rinpoche's embodiment of Shakyamuni Buddha. Now, for me, this has always been interesting in the sense that you have someone who has non-dual realization, somebody who could, had they wished, gone off and created Guru Rinpoche-ism, Padmasambhava-ism. I'm enlightened, look at me. Instead, through the form of Shakya Senge, he shows that there is no difference between the teachings of Sutra, the teachings of Vajrayana, that they complement each other, that the forms of Vajrayana, the forms of Tantra and Dzogchen arise out of the realizations of Sutra. So he carries a begging bowl, representative of the Sutra. As you probably already know, the monks at the time of Shakyamuni Buddha and many since would only live on what they were given when begging. And this was a way of, in a sense, making them part of the community. The community supported them to that extent. If they weren't any use to the community, they wouldn't be getting any support. Also, it's a matter of choicelessness, because what ends up in your begging bowl is what you eat. which is a practice of emptiness. So we have the begging bowl as the symbol of sutra. He carries a vajra, showing that the teachings of Vajrayana arise out of sutra. They're not a revolution that goes against sutra. They're just a natural follow-on from the realization of emptiness. You realize emptiness, form continues to arise. But this time we're talking about form arising out of emptiness. And the inside of his robe is lined with blue, and this indicates Dzogchen as one of the other aspects of the teaching. So you have within his appearance the vehicles of Sutra, Tantra, and Dzogchen. And his activity is Vajrayana performance, but it's united. It comes from the basis of the realizations of compassion that come out of the sutras, that come out of Mahayana practice. So this is this bridges between Sutrayana and Vajrayana in the sense that the two are undivided through the form of Shakyasenge.
Next.
This is the manifestation called Senge Dradog, or the lion's roar. And the activities of Senge Dradog are extremely wrathful, brutally direct, because they are committed to reality. They're committed to things are as they are and need to be proclaimed as they are, and no space is allowed for anyone who wants them to be, I'd like things to be a little bit different to as they are. No, Senge Dradog is right on there, proclaiming authentic teachings, overcoming any teachings that would lead in other directions. So although we say Senge Dradog is wrathful, Senge Dradog is wrathful as a response to anything that would lead to the continuity of neuroses. As I sometimes think with teachers, teachings and practices, they're more on our side sometimes than we are. Where we want an escape clause, the teacher, or in this case, Senge Dradog, does not allow us one. Where we want to make samsara a bit more comfortable. Senge Dradog is saying you can't make samsara more comfortable. So we have a list of example neuroses here, which you can look at for yourself, but it includes anything, any style that is turning us away from realization. In terms of Terma, the revealed teachings, Terma are often expressed as being fragile and require authenticity from their practitioners. They require us to be completely authentic in terms of how we approach practice. So within the Aro Tear, Senge Dradog has this sense of demanding authenticity from us in terms of how we approach practice. This is Pema Jungne, the tantric scholar. An interesting aspect here is that within the Aro Tear, study as well as practice is important. So understanding the teachings from having studied them, as well as having practiced them, as well as having tried to live them in your everyday life. These three go together and inform each other. So Pema Jungne in this instance has the monastic appearance, appears as a monk in the style that Ananda was. And Ananda was one of the disciples of Shakyamuni Buddha. And an aspect of Ananda was that he delayed his own approach to realization in order to be of service to the Buddha. So he'd listened to the teachings, but he put the Buddha first in terms of his approach. And later in life, and I think after the Buddha had died, Ananda entered into practice at that point and quickly gained realization. So he'd been studying whilst a monk, but his practice was more in terms of making sure that Shakyamuni Buddha had everything he needed in order to carry out his teachings. So again, there's symbolism within this image. He holds the skull bowl, which is a symbol of transformation, a symbol of transforming the neurotic aspects of emotion and transcending the aspects of the world, I suppose, that to which we relate in a neurotic manner. And then he has the mudra of touch, and this is uniting wisdom and the sense fields, so that the senses and the sense fields are all informed in terms of the wisdom aspect of the 5 Buddha families. He is the tantric scholar, so he studies all the tantric teachings and lives them. He displays the experience of the lived meaning of the teachings. So it's possible to go into study to an extent where you become an expert, but if you never practice or live it, you're not actually, possibly not even a Buddhist, because there are academics who know far more than I imagine I ever will about the practices of Buddhism. But if they're not lived, if they're not practiced, then they don't mean anything from the point of view of practitioners. So you have this balance between what you study, what you practice, and how you live your life. And again, he is an aspect of or an example of the discipline of sutric practice, the sutric monastic practice, but also how that is manifested through the practices of Tantra.
So is this Padmasambhava?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pema Jungne, Padmasambhava. With these teachings, we've been carefully avoiding using the term Padmasambhava because sometimes these 8 aspects are known as the 8 manifestations of Padmasambhava, one of whom is called Padmasambhava, which is why we're referring to them as the 8 manifestations of Guru Rinpoche. And this is Padmasambhava, this is Pema Jungne.
I see that he has robes lined with blue again. Is that an indication of Dzogchen again?
I would say so, yes, because that is not a usual monastic form. Yeah. This is Guru Rinpoche in the form of Lodin Chukse. And in this, he is the emperor. Now, amongst other things, the practice of Dzogchen is known as the imperial practice, or the practice of the emperor, because anyone who actually practices Dzogchen is of the status of the emperor in that it's all accomplished. Everything is already accomplished. There is no further effort involved. So the emperor accomplishes everything they want to accomplish without actually having to put effort into it. It's said that a king might ride into battle at the head of their troops, but the emperor is moving vast armies just through the power of their mind alone. And in this manifestation, Guru Rinpoche has the most vast and complete view of the possibility of benefiting beings. So there's this quote from Guru Rinpoche: "My view is as vast as the sky, and my conduct is as fine as barley flour." And that combination means that nothing is missed. The view misses nothing because it's vast, but the view also misses nothing because it is entirely detailed as well. So this is the view of the emperor. He carries a damaru, and a damaru is an aspect of the sound of Dharma.
A damaru is a little drum, in case Sam isn't familiar with the term.
Thank you. That conveys the sound of Dharma. He's holding a skull bowl, which contains the nectar of immortality. I'll come on to that in a moment. And he's wearing a melong on his chest. And a melong is a particular kind of mirror. And the mirror reflects everything as it is. We come back to that sense again, that realization is working in terms of as things are. Lack of realization is working in terms of as things aren't. So the sound of the damaru is heard within the vastness of the mirror. So, which is quite a mystical way of putting things, but it's that sense that the sound of Dharma can be heard everywhere, and is, because of the combination of the damaru and the mirror, it's infinitely subtle and infinite in extent as well. So we come back to this quotation: the view is vast as the sky, the conduct is as fine as barley flour. So between the damaru and the mirror, we have both the view and the conduct. And the nectar of immortality might not be as we expect. Immortality is the non-duality of birth and death.
Okay.
Immortality, birth and death are undivided. Therefore, for somebody who is present, right, for somebody who is present in terms of birth and death, there is no difference. They are undivided. Sam's just asked a question about the difference between...
Is it Sam?
Is it Sam?
I thought it was... It was
No,
Trinley.
yeah. Sorry. Trinley's just asked a question about the difference between Padmasambhava and Guru Rinpoche.
Yeah.
To all intents and purposes, you could say not. The Padmasambhava and Guru Rinpoche are names for the same person. And this same person is known in some places as Padmasambhava and some places as Guru Rinpoche. We'd still be referring to historically to Guru Rinpoche Padmasambhava was born in the 8th century. And in terms of the enlightened aspect, it's the force of that teaching that continues through to today, and the possibility of realizing that. We divide them here so that we're talking about aspects of Guru Rinpoche's history, one of which is sometimes called Padmasambhava. So we divide them in that way. So Padmasambhava within these teachings is the lotus-born guru within the set of within this set of 8. But Guru Rinpoche is the lotus-born guru. So they are the same, but they're different in terms of these teachings because we are talking about aspects of Guru Rinpoche. I hope that's useful.
I mean, it's just like you might be known by a different name in a different context. So at violin group, they don't call you Trinley. They know you by your other name, but you're still the same person. but you're just known by different names in different contexts.
And so you have a violin manifestation. You might have a sewing manifestation. You might have a retreat organizing manifestation. We all have manifestations. This may be a worthwhile point to say, we all do this. And there's the opportunity for every different manifestation that we have to be a realized manifestation. The realized aspect of that is that the way we are is appropriate to the situation in terms of benefiting beings. So we might sit here and have the aspect of teachers, but when we're out for a picnic with our family in the park, we have a completely different aspect, and hopefully we have the right one at the right time. Would you like another cake?
Yes, I don't think our daughter-in-law would appreciate it if we started being teacherly with her.
If we started pontificating. So we all have these aspects, and so Guru Rinpoche's different aspects displayed different manifestations of what Vajrayana can be like, and each one is a teaching for those who need that particular teaching.
Now these displays here are looking very much like the three spheres of being in the order you've put them as form, energy and emptiness to me.
Yes.
So I think they're an expression of non-duality through the three spheres.
Thank you very much.
Next one.
Yes,
now.
yes.
Yeah.
Where are we now? I think this is the last of the 8 in this presentation. Dorje Trolla is the manifestation of wrath, similar in a way to Sengye Dradog, in that wrath is always directness. What might appear to us to be harshness is simply directness. You could be realized. You could be realized right now. And he is the one who manifests wisdom chaos. You need the wisdom first before you can do anything that looks like manifesting wisdom chaos. And it's the enlightened activity that takes spiritual materialism by surprise. And this could be anything. But if somebody's getting too aerated and fanciful, it could just simply be down-to-earth common sense, like a worldly wise grandparent, that actually puts everything in its place, calms what needs to be calmed so that people can get on with their practice. It might be, for example, the reaction to somebody having a weird meditational experience, where the answer might be, let it go, don't hang up on it, that sort of thing. But on the other hand, if people are really turning spirituality into some sort of self-affirming game, then it might simply be something that cuts the ground from underneath them in a very direct manner. Lama Chimi Rigsin Rinpoche was somebody who would do this, where he saw it as necessary if somebody was getting too much of a high opinion of themselves. In fact, Lama Chimi Rigsin Rinpoche would manifest both of these. He had this reputation of being wrathful, but where some sort of quiet kindness was needed, quiet kindness was how he was. And so another aspect throughout these 8 manifestations is the sense that there's no way that Guru Rinpoche stuck to a particular persona. And in terms of being a practitioner, if we have to respond appropriately to a situation and openly and clearly, we can't drag our persona with us, our favored persona, because that's just going to distort what we do. So Doji Trulla here is basically in union with Yeshe Tsogyal, or Tashi Chidren, in the form of a pregnant tigress, because he's riding on her in a standing position. Some people think he's subduing her in some way, but basically the two are very much together in terms of how they're manifesting. And the pregnant tigress is another aspect of wrathfulness. A pregnant tigress about to give birth is not going to let you near them. So they have this symbolic aspect of wrathfulness. Doji Trulla wields a purba, and this cuts through attraction, aversion, and indifference. And one of those three is usually our go-to place in terms of how we react to stuff in the world. We either like it if it makes us feel good and boosts us in some way, or we don't like it if it seems to be dragging us down in some fashion, or we don't care if it's not touching on either of those. And by destroying all three of them, Doji Trulla is saying, be present with what is. Forget about your liking, not liking, and ignoring. Be present with what is, because this is reality. This is the way it is. And again, he has the Vajra, which overpowers the dualistic appearance of phenomena, so that it no longer, phenomena no longer act as a reference point for us. There's no longer any sense of duality. So again, we come back to the idea of things are as they are. The manifestations of Guru Rinpoche are saying you have to see things as they are. And the realization of non-duality is an imminent possibility at all times. I've got one more slide.
Oh, right.
I thought I'd try and round things off a bit. There's this quote here from Khenchen Palden Sherab Rinpoche. When Guru Rinpoche appeared, he came as a human being. In order to dissolve our attachment to dualistic conceptions and destroy neurotic fixations, he exhibited extraordinary manifestations. So Guru Rinpoche was a human being, because in terms of having a teacher, human beings possibly relate best to human beings. But he also has this other aspect of being able to manifest in different ways depending on circumstances. So he manifests in many different forms. He has different styles of teaching as appropriate to different people. He communicates with people through or overcoming their different styles of confusion in order to display the imminent possibility of liberation, the imminent possibility that we could all become realized right now.
That was wonderful. Thank you very much.